There seems to have been a lot that's gone on in the last 8 days, mostly centered around a quarterback in Wisconsin. But I'll tell you, it has been fascinating to me to watch this week everything that has been said about Rodgers and all the different reports there are. But I still think, I forget when you wrote this. It was quite a while ago. But, Aaron Rodgers needs to come out and say what he wants. And that hasn't changed. And until that happens, so much of this is going to be speculation. Like, Mike, I have been told, stay away from the contract. It's not a part of this dissatisfaction. Don't worry about the contract. That's not it. And so, but, I don't know that. I'd like to be able to hear from the guy whose life is basically being affected by all this what exactly is going on. So hopefully we'll hear that soon, but I'm not counting on it.
Peter, I would say at a minimum, the contract is a symptom of the deeper problem between Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And to the extent that I wrote that he needs to come out and talk, I would have mentioned your point from a couple of weeks ago that we know that Aaron Rodgers wants to be the permanent host of Jeopardy because he says so. And the dichotomy between the candor, the bluntness, the honesty and transparency that we see from him when it comes to something that could be fairly regarded as almost a pipe dream, because I don't think he's the favorite or even the second favorite, although the ratings did very well when he was on the show. But that's something he's not afraid to come out and tell us he wants. And to put that against this beautiful mystery and the ambiguities and the vague notion. He had a chance last Saturday. Churchill Downs could have got on camera with Mike Tirico and said, I don't get this. I don't know what's going on here. The contract doesn't have anything to do with it. There are other issues, but these aren't unusual for a guy that's been with the team for 16 years. Look what happened with Tom Brady. Could have done all that. Instead, spoke to Mike Tirico, and Tirico said on the air, there is a fissure, there is a chasm between Rodgers and the front office. That's the record. That's the narrative. And Rodgers has had an opportunity to shout it down, and he hasn't. And after he spoke to Tirico and authorized Tirico, presumably to say what he said, that's where we are. That's what we've heard directly. The closest thing to what we've directly heard from Aaron Rodgers is what he said to Tirico, and it seemed to confirm that there is a major situation unfolding between player and team, even though we may not know all of the specifics. So until he speaks, Peter, that's the closest he's come to speaking, and that's done nothing to push back against any of what we've been hearing, reporting on, speculating on, or otherwise filling the void, because he won't come out and say what he wants, what the problem is, whether he's going to show up, however it's going to play out between him and the Packers.
The one thing I think that we can fairly say is there are some commonalities between the Aaron Rodgers story and the Russell Wilson story. In that, in the Aaron Rodgers story, basically, it isn't so much of what Aaron Rodgers basically has said, it's what has leaked out around him. Now, Russell Wilson said some things to Dan Patrick, obviously. But I do think that a lot of this, Mike, is about when Russell Wilson was talking about how, hey, listen, I just want to be kept apprised. I just want to be part of even the sort of the netherworld decision-making process. I want to be more involved in what we're calling in the game. I want that stuff. I don't want to tell John Schneider who to pick, but if we got a practice squad receiver that has got to be elevated, and we got 3 practice squad receivers or 2, I'd like to have a say in which one, because I can tell them which one I most have chemistry with. I think a lot of that stuff is the same with Aaron Rodgers. I think my sense is he just doesn't think they value his opinion in any way. And so that probably, to me, is something that's going to have to get fixed if he goes back. And I don't think, quite honestly, that's that hard to get fixed. Really, I don't. I mean, is there anything that would be so difficult about Aaron Rodgers having a conversation once a week or once every 10 days with Brian Gutekunst about the roster or about the guys he likes or anything like that. In my opinion, this is just what I think. We're in a different era of sports, Mike. And I can hear a lot of people right now saying, hey, it's not his job. The Packers are doing just fine without him. I get it, it's not his job. But I'm going to tell you one thing, that in 2018, Sean Payton allowed me into his Saturday night meeting with his quarterbacks and his offensive staff. And Drew Brees sat there and told him what he wanted to call in the course of the game. And I asked Payton at the end of that meeting, these 46 plays that Brees likes, how many do you hope you can call tomorrow? He goes, I'm going to try to call every one. And so, that isn't personnel, but that is the kind of inclusivity that I think that Aaron Rodgers is looking for.
I got 2 points to make. And the first one is that there are similarities, I agree with you, between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. There's one big difference, however. The Seahawks have not drafted Wilson's eventual replacement and gotten to a point in Wilson's contract where they have year-to-year flexibility. That's the thing that Rodgers has wanted to blow up. And, Peter, I heard from that 48-hour period right after the NFC Championship when Rodgers first introduced this concept that maybe my future is in doubt before he cleaned it up. And he cleaned it up then. That's what makes the silence this time around even more deafening. But the idea that he wanted certainty, he didn't want to be a year-to-year employee. He didn't want to have this specter of Jordan Love looming over him, this idea that they're using Jordan Love to manipulate him to be pissed off just enough to go out and have an MVP performance. And if he doesn't, we're going to go to Jordan Love, and then we're going to trade you. That's the big difference between Wilson and Rodgers. But as to the point that some of these old school, crusty football guys, and you made the point in Football Morning in America this week that this Gutekunst mindset as it relates to Rodgers dates back to Ron Wolf. Employees are here, management is here, players play, coaches coach, general managers generally manage, everybody has their role. I'm a firm believer that if a team expects the quarterback to essentially be the manager on the shop floor, expects the quarterback to set the example by showing up earlier than everyone else, by staying later than everyone else, by holding his coworkers accountable in a way that only a coworker can. You want the quarterback to do all these things that make him a quasi-member of management. And then when it's time to show up to the manager's lounge or the retreat or the meeting, they tell you, nope, sorry, managers only. That attitude doesn't reconcile with everything they want quarterbacks in today's game to do.
I couldn't agree more. And I also think that, if your most important employee, who you're giving 15 to 18% of the salary cap to every year, if he's your most important employee, don't you want to make absolutely sure that that employee is relaying positive messages throughout the team that he leads? I mean, I can only imagine, the eye rolling that Aaron Rodgers has done at times in the last year or so, or however long it's been, over various things that happen in this organization. You don't want your quarterback to be doing that. It's like, I would bet Drew Brees is, quite honestly, a great representative, or was a great representative for Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, the GM and coach, in the New Orleans locker room. And that's because he felt valued. He felt like he was involved. And so I think the other big part of this, Mike, is that when Aaron Rodgers goes to work every day, he wants to feel, in my opinion, like he is valued, like it's okay if he went up and he told the boss his opinion about something. And I just think right now he feels like, I am totally not valued. My opinion is not valued. And so I think that is where that's bigger than the contract. It's bigger than everything right now. And that somehow, some way has to get fixed. But like I was going to say before, Mike, that Mark Murphy, in my opinion, can fix this. The president of the Packers, he can fix this. He can basically, mandate is too strong a word, but he could suggest, I would not be surprised at all if in these flights to the West Coast have resulted in them saying, okay, here's what we will do in the future. Whether that has happened or whether it will happen, Mark Murphy can definitely make that happen.
My best understanding, Peter, is there have been 3 such trips this offseason in an effort to placate Aaron Rodgers. But obviously, whatever has been said during those meetings or otherwise hasn't worked, which is one of the reasons why we are where we are. So are they at impasse? Have they done everything they can to try to find a middle ground, and they have just decided there is no middle ground? We have to do what we have to do, and that remains to be seen what each side will do. You mentioned the eye rolling that Aaron Rodgers can do to influence teammates. We have reports this week indicating he's doing more than simply rolling his eyes. The report from Bob McGinn of The Athletic that in group text messages, he refers derisively, Rodgers does, to Brian Gutekunst as Jerry Krause, although every GM in the NFL should love to be Jerry Krause because he put together a team that won 6 championships. But when you use Jerry Krause in that context, it's not complimentary. It's because he was the reviled general manager who screwed up the Bulls and was responsible for the last dance and tore it all down, and Michael Jordan hated him, and that was the context Jerry Krause used it in. And then, Peter, the report from Mike Garafolo of NFL Media that Rodgers was telling Packers players who were going to become free agents, I'm not going to be here next year. Factor that into your planning for your own football future. That's an example, as is the group text, of tangible things a quarterback can do to undermine a teammate's faith in the organization.
Yeah, and I think those things, you're absolutely right. Those things, look, maybe he said that to Corey Linsley. I don't know. Maybe the Packers, just understood that somebody was going to blow Corey Linsley out of the water with an offer, which, he got a great deal with the Chargers. But be that as it may, I definitely think the Jerry Krause stuff that Bob McGinn wrote about, that'd be really concerning to me. But I also agree with you. This stuff, I kind of think it's revisionist history. And look, I'm not a huge basketball guy, but the fact is, Jerry Krause, I think he did not draft Michael Jordan, but he basically constructed the team in full after that. So I understand that he is derisively referred to, but he also did a pretty good job in building a championship team as well.
They didn't necessarily give him that credit in The Last Dance. He
Right.
came off as the villain. Every good story needs a villain. He came off as the villain, and I think that's where the motivation to call Gutekunst Jerry Krause came from. Peter, I have a theory that in the absence of Aaron Rodgers speaking directly, he may be using some surrogates to get his message out, whether it's John Kuhn on CBS Sports Radio earlier this week talking about how the situation is fixable, to James Jones, close friend and former teammate of Aaron Rodgers, who was on NFL Network yesterday, repeatedly saying that the situation is fixable. It's not about getting the GM fired. It's all about making sure we have the key guys we need to win championships. I can't help but wonder whether or not those individuals are laying the foundation for Rodgers conceding, recognizing that the Packers are dug in, they're not going to trade him. Their attitude is, or maybe should be, pay us back $30 million and retire if you want. We're not trading you. We don't want to find out the alternate history of what happens when Aaron Rodgers goes to the Broncos and wins a championship or two. And then maybe after 3 or 4 years, the Broncos decide to let him go and he comes back to the NFC North and plays for the Vikings like Brett Favre did. We don't want to go through that again. We're content to take back $30 million and use that to buy other players and move on with Jordan Love if that's what you want to do. We're not giving in. And if Rodgers realizes that, he needs a way to save face. He needs a path back to the locker room. And I can't help but wonder whether or not guys like Kuhn and Jones are paving that path for him to eventually show up and say, hey, I'm here to play football. I'm here to win championships. I'm here to entertain the fans at Lambeau Field. Let's get to work. And not have people say, what in the hell is going on here? I feel like Kuhn and Jones have either directly or indirectly been commissioned to lay the foundation for that? Your thoughts on my cockeyed theory?
I don't know. I don't have any reason to think you're right or that you're wrong. I don't, because I just don't know. My information last weekend was that this was probably not fixable and that Aaron Rodgers was not going to play for the Packers anymore. And so, but look, if you were to ask me, what's the percentage chance he's going to play? I'd say for the Packers, I'd say it's less than 50-50, but it's May 7th. There's basically 3 months to go before anything really matters. Actually 4 months before anything really matters. But the one other thing I would say, Mike, is that when you think about all this, you also have to think about, what the two sides, the message the two sides want to get across. You saw Brian Gutekunst talk to me. Brian Gutekunst talked to Albert Breer over the weekend. And he told us both that he told Albert, we are not trading Aaron Rodgers. And he told me, we are resolute. We're not trading Aaron Rodgers, basically. And so that's the message that the Packers are getting across now. And Aaron Rodgers' message is that he doesn't want to play for the team anymore. Now, what is going to happen on, August 7th, let's say, 3 months from now, that's a long time. And that's why I think it's always wise in cases like this, you got to leave some wiggle room, because you can say whatever you want at this time of year, but things change. Time has a way of healing things.
Well, and who has the wiggle room? The Packers haven't left much wiggle room for themselves. Their attitude is, we're not trading him. They could get an offer they can't refuse. They still could refuse it. The Bengals may have gotten an offer they can't refuse last year from the Dolphins, so the Dolphins could go get Joe Burrow. They refused it. The Packers could say, no, this is it. This is our quarterback. Let me run another theory by you, because this is something Sims and I have been talking about this week. The dynamic in Green Bay where there isn't one person who can make decisions with zero accountability to anyone else. There's no owner. And my cockeyed theory on Mark Murphy, the CEO, is that whatever move he makes here, there could be ramifications moving forward. And the one move that prevents him from being proven wrong is saying, go ahead and retire, pay us back $30 million, we'll reinvest that money in other players, and we'll never know what may have been if Aaron Rodgers finished his career somewhere else. I won't be made to look foolish for handing a championship or two to the Broncos. I won't have to worry for the next 3 or 4 years that the dominoes fall in a way that leads Aaron Rodgers back to the division. With Brett Favre, they had no choice. Brett Favre showed up unexpectedly and said, deal with me. And they said, fine, we're going to trade you. We're not going to cut you. We're not going to pay you $12 million to be Aaron Rodgers' backup. We've moved on from you. They had to do something with Brett Favre because he was retired and he came back. If Rodgers doesn't want to play for the Packers anymore and the Packers don't want him to play for anyone else anymore, I feel like that's a better move for Mark Murphy, because you can't prove Mark Murphy wrong if Aaron Rodgers never plays again.
Yeah, but I think Murphy's goal in this, honestly, and I know Mark Murphy pretty well, his goal in this is to find peace in our time. It just is. His goal is to make sure that Aaron Rodgers comes back, and when he does come back, that they're one big happy family, no matter how really happy they are. So that's why I think, before, Mike, you asked, what is the next step? And I asked Gutekunst that the other day. And he said, well, he wouldn't say. They want to handle this thing privately. But in my opinion, the next step has to be some sort of olive branch extended by Murphy. I think it'd be smart to just let things cool off for 2 or 3 weeks. Forget about the off-season program. Let Jordan Love get all the reps. He needs that anyway. So just let Jordan Love do everything in the off-season program. And if Rodgers is going to skip the mandatory minicamp in June, and take the $95,000 in fines or whatever it is. Let Jordan Love handle everything as the quarterback. But what's most important now, I think, the thing cools off and Mark Murphy goes in with an olive branch. What it will be, I don't know, but that is what I think is the most logical next step.
And there is an opportunity over the next few weeks for something like that to happen. But the OTAs, the on-field practices that are the opportunity to lay the foundation for what the team is going to learn and implement in training camp. If he doesn't show up for that, that's an overt act that will create headlines. The mandatory minicamp, not showing up for that, is the proverbial or literal middle finger to the Packers. That will be headlines. And then for the Packers, that shareholders meeting in July every year before training camp, that could get interesting as well if this hasn't been resolved by then. But there will be decision points. There will be action items as this continues to unfold. And you're right. There's an opportunity now. And I think the Packers are wishing and hoping and praying that some other major story will come along and knock Aaron Rodgers off the top of the stack. It hasn't happened in 8 days. Who knows when it's going to happen? But they're waiting for that. Now, along the way, and that's the here's thank you, The Onion. At one point this week, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers texted, and Favre said to Rodgers, I have a feeling you're going to be playing for the Saints this year, and Rodgers said that's not going to happen. And I think we can confidently say that's not going to happen, even if Rodgers doesn't play for the Packers.